So my name is Francoise, but I have also an Igbo name that is Ijeoma. And then my surname is the one that was given to me by my husband, of course. That is Ugochukwu, which means the glory of God.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started into this episode.
And I was born in France in 1949, and I lived in France till 1972. Then 72, I had met my husband very early in the year, and when we discussed marriage, he advised me to first go to Nigeria, gave me addresses to apply for work because I was halfway through my PhD. So I applied, got an employment at Nsukka, University of Nigeria, and I went there. We married 74. We stayed there till 96, and then late 95, I came to the UK after resigning as a professor. And then I stayed in the UK ever since. So it's like 27 years now. And I'm a mother of 5 children, 4 remaining, and they are now 2 in France and 2 here. And then my husband is with me, and we are both retired, but I'm affiliated to the Open University, and I continue as a full-time researcher now.
This conversation started after I shared with you a video interview that I did with a US professor relating to racism and discrimination against African American in the United States. So you have a pretty active line on it. So I said, okay, come on, let's talk about it. So in this conversation, we're going to be looking at race and racism, and also the concept of black and white as commonly used among both in the mainstream media and even among regular people. So let's start with your reaction to the video that I did with Dr. Kenja. Let's go with that.
Yeah, first of all, I noticed that it was, of course, heavily focused on the African American experience. And the first thing I wanted to say that made me react to that video was that people tend nowadays, there is a trend tending to put everybody in the same boat. So there is a difference, a marked difference between the experience of African Americans and the experience of foreigners, whoever they are, in Europe, for example. And it's very, very different. And there is a tendency also for people to think that countries are just open spaces that have no difference. They are just like indiscriminate. And that's, for example, the opinion of the present president of France. Thinking of a country as an open space that has no particular marker, and people can live there and they're all the same, and people move from one country to the other. This is very wrong. It is absolutely inaccurate. A country is not an open space free for all. It's just like taking a dress. Wearing a dress is not just wearing any type of thing, calling it a dress. Dresses have colors, they have special cuts, they have special, adornment and so on. So countries are marked by their history. And the first thing I want to say is that America, or say the United States, are a country with a particular history. First of all, people coming to discover, unquote, that country and finding those people that were called at the time the Red Indians. The people that were there are the autochthones. So they were there. And then after that, there was that transatlantic trade that brought thousands and thousands of Africans from different countries in Africa. And they are now part and parcel of that country. And this is not the history of Britain, it's not the history of France. You go to France, for example, you find that most people there are looking kind of the same. They are French, like who you call Franco-French, yeah? Whereas America is not the same. So that's the first thing I want to say. You enter a country as a foreigner, coming, say, for example, for me, coming from Nigeria to the UK, and I had a particular experience. One day I was on a bus in London, and I was passing through a university, and on the front glass of the university, there were pictures of alumni of that university that became famous, scientists generally. And bizarrely, I thought, how come that they are all white? And it took me some time to realize how foolish I was. That, of course, I was in Britain, so what do you expect people to look like? You understand? It's like me in Nigeria saying, why are they all black? It doesn't make sense. There is a history behind. Now, the second thing I want to say is that, like the proverb says, and I was telling you yesterday, it's not black and white. It's not all black and white. And you cannot put people in boxes. I have been a rebel concerning that. I think it's not accurate to do that, and it's frustrating because people cannot put themselves in a box. In the process, you are just removing some stuff that belongs to these people. For example, myself, I'm not white. I'm possibly not black, but anyway, I'm not white because my ancestors come from very different places. Most of my mother's family are coming from Spain. So they have, you can see my skin is a bit, darker than people from Finland, for example, or even Scotland. And another part of my family is from the border between Germany and France. So there are people from different cultures, different languages. They are all in my DNA. And each person is different. So my mother was from Belgium. My father was from France. And in my family, there are Germans, there are people from different countries. So I don't recognize myself. I cannot tag myself as just one of them. And even by certain parts of me, I'm Nigerian. I was born French. I'm Nigerian by marriage. And now I'm living in the UK and I'm reluctantly British because I lived there I find it difficult to adjust to that idea that I'm also British because I don't feel British. But I decided last year to take the plunge and take the citizenship because it's part of me. I cannot deny it. So this is the first thing I want to say. And for example, when I was in Nigeria as Onyocha, Oibo, like they would say, and I was never treated as such, except administratively. At the time before my wedding, I was what they called an alien. And I had a card that was saying alien number XYZ. And each time I left town, I had to report to the administration that alien was leaving the town or alien was coming back. And then by the time I wedded, then that was the end of it, and it had nothing to do with passports in that case. But after that, I was very much integrated and in fact assimilated, I would say, because I didn't see myself as different from the others. I belonged to the Women's Guild, the Mothers Union, the village meeting. I mixed with people. People called me by my Igbo name and nobody was showing any sign, even fleeting, treating me like a different person. I was not. I was just part and parcel of it, And I
All right. All right.
sorry.
Professor Ugochukwu, That is very important. So that is why I'm sort of stopping you there. Because you see, the people in the United States, the African American in the United States, are asking to be treated the same way that you were treated in Nigeria. Is that you don't need to say, because your color is this, so I give you a certain treatment, you are no longer qualified. This is not a random behavior. This is something that it is a standard behavior in the United States. And by extension, also in certain part, in many part of Europe, not certain part, in many part of Europe, no, is that people are treated based on the color of their skin. And this treatment, in most of the cases, is positive when you are a European descent. When you are of an African descent, your treatment is almost, in most of the cases, negative. So I was interviewing a historian a couple of days ago in US. I was saying, this is even a common sense. It is not right. It is not right that we behave like that, because there it becomes almost a law that we treat people unfairly. All right, now,
Wait,
you say a lot of, please go.
You have not heard the rest of my introduction to that.
Please go.
Okay, so this was my experience in Nigeria. And now if you try to analyze it, you see that I was not a threat to those people. I was not a foreigner to them, because I was the wife of somebody that was the son of the soil. And people from the area around my husband's village or town were even calling me my wife, you know. So I was never felt as strange, because they knew I was married there. And for them, that was the most important part. And the people at the university, when I mixed with women, we were, attending, what do you call it? Baby shower, not baby showers, but baby visits and things. People knew that I was just part of the environment. But that was Nigeria. And in Nigeria, I never thought about color. I lived there 25 years. I never thought I was any different until I came to the UK. And the UK was a completely different environment. We arrived, and at first I had a lot of difficulty getting my children into schools. As soon as I mentioned that we were coming from Nigeria, nobody wanted us. And I didn't know at the time the reason. So it would have been easy for me to say, oh, because they are racist. Do you understand? It's not a matter of color there, but they were just reacting badly for me because I wanted the children to attend school. That was my right. Eventually, one school accepted us. It was not a good school, but there you go, And they told me that they would take 3 out of 4 of the children. They didn't want to take the one that was doing GCSE that year. And they said if they take her, then the school results would go down. So that revealed the reason behind their reluctance. It was not a color. It was not Nigeria per se. It was the fact that in their knowledge or what they experienced before was that the Nigerians, Nigerian English was different from Queen's English, that they had not studied the same program, and therefore they could not cope, with the preparing for an exam in a very short while. And so I insisted, I brought all the results of Emily, and they said, oh, okay. So they took Emily, but what they did was then to offer, one of the teachers offered to coach her every evening after class so that she would do well and get absorbed into the program. And of course, she did excellently well. In fact, she was the first in science for the school. So you see that the problem they had was not racism. It was their own idea of Nigeria based on previous experience. People came, and you don't know where they came from in Nigeria. Nigeria is big, So that was my first experience. Then the children went to school, and then they were told in school, are you white or black? And the children said, pardon? And they were, the other kids told them, you have to choose, because there was the group of whites, unquote, and blacks, unquote. And the children could not understand. Now, in the black one, were included children that were, one child was Turkish. So it didn't look like black, the way you would understand it possibly, but it was included and the black ones included people from Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and things like that. So my children didn't know what to do with that because they were neither black nor white. So they looked at the behavior of people and concluded that the whites in the school, so-called whites, were badly behaved. They were from broken families, and so on and so forth. So they joined the other group. And then my next experience was looking for a job. I applied to several universities. They kept rejecting me. And then I thought, what could cause this? And I sent a letter accusing them of being ageist, racist, and all the while. And many didn't even reply, but one phoned and said, it's none of these. We just employed a Nigerian. The problem you have is that you are coming from somewhere else and you need to enter gradually into the system. So he advised me to take part-time job, kind of entering through the back door. Then I applied to a particular university. I won't give you the name because it is shameful. And that was a very renowned and respected university. One of the staff there that was retired was my head of department at Nsukka at a point. He had come 1 year. So he served as a reference. And they rejected me and went to him and said, you understand, that person may be good, but we cannot have somebody called Ugochukwu teaching French. It doesn't look like it. We want French names for teaching French. It's like one of my colleagues in another university later was Chinese, married to a British. And for the purpose of job, she answered a Chinese name because she was teaching Chinese. So you see the way it goes. And eventually, to get a job, I was obliged to put my name as double barrel. So Ugochukwu Parent. I answered Parent Ugochukwu, and that did it. Because now I was Parent, so I was deemed good to teach French. And I continued until I was really settled, and then told them, just remove Parent. My name is Ugochukwu. And that was it. So then I had other experiences of the same kind. When I wanted to be promoted, because I was a professor in Nigeria, and they employed me as lecturer. That's at the bottom of the pile. When I applied to get promoted, I was not promoted, and it went badly. What happened was really bad. And eventually one day a colleague invited me for coffee. And after drinking coffee together, chatting, we were just crossing the road, and he said, just wanted to say, by the way, you will never get promoted because you're a foreigner. But don't quote me on that. And then I applied at a point to another university that was my perfect match. They didn't employ me. And when I started looking for feedback, they told me, we cannot employ you because most of your publications are in French. But I was supposed to be employed to teach French African literature. So you see that. So all this together start making a picture. Then one day in 96, I was on the bus in London and I was speaking French with one of our daughters. And somebody that was just in front turned violently and started asking us, "Don't you speak English?" And we said, yes. He said, "Dad, speak English." And what you see from all this is that actually what we suffered was a double whammy, but it was not racism. It was like a puzzle of xenophobia. People in Britain generally, but England especially, are very insular. And they find it difficult to absorb people from elsewhere. For example, talking about France, they describe it as overseas, which is kind of funny. So it shows that it's not about a color. It's xenophobia, that is resenting foreigners. And for example, myself, when people see me and they don't know me, they may think, well, my accent will describe me as foreigner, but they wouldn't know where from, because it's a mixture of Nigerian accent, French accent, and so on. So, but one time I was trying to get promoted that was the last university I attended, I worked with. And a professor from that university met me on the corridor and said, "I hear you were a professor in Nigeria." And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, I guess they are professors and professors, So it showed what she thought about Nigeria. She thought that the professors there are not real professors, that they are substandard. So it's a combination of stereotypes, fears, ignorance mostly, and the treatment that was meted to me had nothing to do with my color. It had to be with my name and the fact that I came from Nigeria. But nobody could say that it was because I was Black. So it reveals that something that the Nigerians don't know. I had the chance of being Nigerian, but white, so-called. And so that's what I want to explain. So the question is, how do you define people? And yesterday I was telling you another experience I had in Nigeria. At a point, I was 3/4 dead. I was very, very sick. And there was no blood bank in the place. It was Christmas time. Everybody had gone to the village. And the doctor contacted a staff that was one of his friends that had the same blood group. And he asked him to give me blood, which he did. And that was a perfect match, and I recovered. We had the same blood. We didn't look the same, but we had the same blood. So you can never treat somebody just because his skin is a different hue from yours. Doesn't work. People are exactly the same. Anger is anger, fear is fear. We all experience the same moods.
Anyway, I'm not going to spend more time on French policy in Africa, both in the era of colonialism and even what it did. Though I see it to be really strange in the way that French operate in Africa, no? But just because you made mention of the current French president, Macron, and his way of looking at the citizens or looking at the country as something that you are not particularly in agreement with, I want to know if this is something strange even to you, if it is something new in French way of being, or is it the way that it has always been? This idea of how to treat people within the nation, who should come in, how do you deal with people, and things like that. Can you share something with me on that line?
Yeah, his behavior is not traditional at all. In fact, he believes in mondialism, globality, and is not very much, well, I don't know whether to say that, but say, for example, he's not very attached, apparently, to the French way of life. Because the very day he was announced as the victor in the elections in 2017, he came for the ceremony and put not the flag of France, but the flag of Europe. And he chose the hymn, the national anthem of Europe, not France, to accompany the ceremony. And that is telling you who he is. And his policy is to keep the borders open. Anybody can come in, legal or illegal, doesn't matter. And has an enforced policy of sending migrants to even the little villages in France by force. People have to take them on. So the problem is, his view of the country is very different from the view of people like de Gaulle, for example. He has a very peculiar view. I wouldn't want to go into details of reasons behind it, because obviously it's a bit sensitive, But I believe that is his view. Whether you agree or not, that's your own problem, Now, the French view of who is coming into the country and what you do with them is very different from for example, from what's going on in the UK. When I was welcomed as a new citizen in the UK, there was somebody welcomed us, and he said, "You sure many of you have been here for quite a while. You are very much welcome. You don't need to abandon your cultures and your languages. You are welcome. We love all of them, and that's okay." So what he was saying in a nutshell is that you don't need to be British. You can just continue whoever you are. If you are Nigerian, fine, you continue with your Nigerian ways. The French are completely opposite. What they say is that, like the proverbs say, when you are in Rome, you do like the Romans. If you want to live in France, first of all, you have to know the language and, use it well, be fluent. Secondly, you have to behave like the French. So if the French, for example, keep religion and political views completely separate. So you see people on the street, you don't know whether they are a nun or a Catholic priest. They don't wear anything that is showing that. So the same way the French say, you should not wear a burqa or anything of the like, even a scarf, to show that you are Muslims. Is not welcome, because that's their policy. And that policy is the result of a very violent history of persecution. So you have to adopt the country's history, study it, know it, understand it, and then you fit in. And the culture, you have to learn the ways of the people. What the UK is doing is, this is a free-for-all. We give you a patch. I have my patch, you have your patch, and we don't mix.
All right, like I said, I'm not going to go deeper in French approach in Africa, and even in its citizens. Look, of course, I believe that French and France have the right to maintain its own alignment, how you want to see the world and the rest of it. The only area I usually have problem is when this one is imposed on other people. Because I'm not sure it's even very clear. How Africans became French. Anyway, we're not going to go into those areas, because those areas, if we need to go there, we're going to explain it in detail. So there's no need just shooting it and not explaining it. to a different policy of assimilation is something that we really need to explain, but that is not for today. So let's leave that aside. Let's leave the idea that French soldiers are found in Ivory Coast or in Cameroon. Why is it like that? Because usually you expect that the only reason you will see a French in an African country is when France declare war on that country. But that is not the case. We see French soldiers all across Africa. This is, of course, based on the kind of how French see its colony in Africa. Again, we are not going to those areas. Now, you said before that all the description that you gave of your experience in UK are not racism as it were, no?
Mm.
All right. Now, let's even go to the root itself of racism, which is race. What does it mean?
For me, race doesn't exist. There was something that was interesting that lady said yesterday, was that it is a social construct. And I really, I've studied it. I believe it is. It was not existing before. If you read people that were not originally from Athens, in Greece, were called metek, in French. Metek, it means foreigner. And you read the Bible from cover to cover, there is no mention of race. There are different people that are mentioned, but usually from where they come from. And race was something that was invented to discriminate against people. And the unfortunate thing for me, that's my own views, is that the people now say, African Americans, for example, or even Africans that come into another country, like come to France or come to the UK and claim that they are Black, they are just like using a prejudice and agreeing with it. It's like the rappers in America that call themselves niggers. It was an insult, and now they are using it and claiming it. And what they are doing, these people, is they agree with something that they should not agree with and claim it for themselves. And when you do that, you separate yourself from the others. Just like when I was at Nsukka, I never said I'm Oibo. I was just one of them. And the way I presented myself is the way they took me. And I believe that a lot of so-called racism is caused by people behaving, making a difference, setting a difference between them and the other people. I give you an example. In the UK, I know that there are many Nigerians, that has been proved beyond doubt by the whole of my family, my children included, is that they tend to stay in their own bubble. They have Nigerian churches. I remember the first time I heard, people asked, don't you want to go to a Black church? And I said, Black church? What is that? There's nothing like that in the Bible. And in heaven, there's no Black church, I'm sure. Now, this Black church was, in London, you have Yoruba churches, Igbo churches, just like you have Chinese churches. People congregate. One time I went to a church that was completely Yoruba. And what it meant was that the service was in English, but after that, people were chatting Yoruba. I didn't understand Yoruba. I wish they would have spoken Igbo at least. But no, And so they do that. Then during the week, they only meet with the people from that church. So they visit, the children go to with the other children, all within the Nigerian community. They go to shop on East Street, buy Nigerian stuff. They only eat, rice and stew very plenty. And they dress Nigerians. So in effect, they don't know anybody that is not Nigerian. And if they meet them, like somebody said, the person that was well learned one time said, they and us. And I was just there thinking, which group I belong? I don't recognize me as us. but I don't recognize me as they either. You make a difference between they and us. Immediately you do that, it goes bad. And for example, you see many people that are talking, say, for example, they will say, oh, all Nigerians are bad. Oh, but Mr. Obi is really nice. Because why? Mr. Obi is their neighbor and they know him. So that one is constructed as a neighbor, not as a Nigerian, because he's interacting with them, you see? So for me, all the systems, groups, and whatever that are setting up a wall of difference, whether it's perceived, sure it is, but it's not impossible to break it. All the differences that are between people are caused by ignorance and prejudice. And we are not innocent. Nobody is innocent. For example, people tend to present, in America in particular, said, well, we were taken as slaves traders. Yeah, sure, they were bad, but look at, the slave traders, I heard she talked about this lady. Slave traders usually stayed on the coast because they could not penetrate. Even, yes, there were military operations. They tried to destroy the Ugochukwu Juju, the long Juju, but that could not have done it. They met with people that were willing to give away their brothers to them as slaves. And my husband knows people in his family that did that. Every family had a connection of one kind or the other, at least in Igbo land. I don't know the others, So it happened that it's just like they say it takes two to tango. You cannot dance alone. You need a partner. And that is, honesty needs to recognize that absolutely transatlantic trade was really bad and wicked, but Nigerians cooperated, unfortunately. It happened.
All right, that would need to be explained. Also, I subscribe to the idea that it is not only one side where we are looking at slavery or even colonialism or the neo-colonialism that we have going on across Africa today. Africans need to hold themselves accountable for their own part of the game, because the game, it is not played only by one, it is played by two. Yeah. That had to be understood. That is clear. Or your explanation that racism or the discrimination is something that people cause to themselves. I don't think I'm quite sure I understand that part, because now what I want you to explain, because I believe that it is not a random behavior, that maybe there are these 20 people coming from Nigeria, they decide to segregate themselves. That is why there is segregation in there against them. I think it is deeper than that. I think there is a system that sort of feed itself in it. And for this to be a system, there is a way that it works, no? So I want to go back to the root again. Where does the concept of race, where is it coming from? Because you also said that it had not always been like that. So from your research, from your study, where is this concept itself is coming from? And of course, later, we're going to talk about, also touch a little bit about this slavery, and if for the fact that some Africans are guilty enough, really they are, for having collaborated in selling other people, if that one justify the treatment that African America have to undergo, the injustice untold that they undergo, I don't think that justified. But anyway, let's leave that aside for now. Where is race itself coming from, the concept?
I have not studied it deeply, but from what I read, it is something that started, I think, either 18th or 19th century, and it had to do with the discovery of people that were different. Say, for example, people from Europe exploring different countries. And I remember, what I'm going to say is not racist. It is part of my own experience. When I was young, I was in primary school. Those days, there were descriptions of people by their color or perceived color. For example, I'm saying they were called Red Indians, those people that are the autochthones of the United States now. There was a book that was called the boat experience in Yellow one. That's Yellow was describing the Asians, that's I'm talking of Chinese in particular. People, they were using color, but it was not in a discriminatory manner. That is, those things that were written was just trying to say, oh, these people are different. And I think it was, riding on the back of this race thing that was created to make a difference for people. For example, during the Nazi era, the Jews were considered as subhuman. And it's the same system that you want to maltreat people or do something to them that you wouldn't do to your compatriots. You just use a name to separate yourself from them, to distance yourself from them. But what I'm saying is not, it was not something that was there at the beginning. Now, on the other side to it, for example, there is something that people do in France and possibly here is they are checking people on the street. In France, it's quite common. The police goes around and decides to stop people and ask them for their papers, what they call papers. That's prove who you are to. And they do that to combat crime. And usually what they do is they don't stop the Franco-French. So people feel that they are stopped because they look different. They look like Arabs, they look like blacks, and so on. But the problem is the police. I'm not saying the police is innocent. The problem is try and understand, why they are doing that. The reason being that many of these people that look like that have been proved to be disruptive of the and that can be proved abundantly.
All right, I have a question for you there before we move to the next one. The people that look like that, and that in this case are maybe Africans, the Arab. These people, because we see this repeated again, often and again in the United States, in France, in the United States more, but of course also in the UK. So these people that look like that appears to be criminals, no? All right. These people are criminal. Let's just put it like that. Africans are criminal. In fact, Africans are treated often as criminal in front of the law, no? Because the law also was set up like this. I just finished an interview, a very intense interview, where we talk about the law, how the law actually is set up to punish other people, no? But what I want to understand here is, was the prison set up because there are people coming from Africa and Asia? I mean, if these people were not there, would there still be criminal in, say, in French society, in typical German society without immigrants, in the United States only among themselves? Would there still be criminal, or they cannot be criminal among them? So only these people that look like different, they are the suspects. So the police need to always go there to check these criminals that are coming around so that we can save the society. Help me understand that.
No, this is not the way. There were prisons before, long before. And in France, there was the beheading of criminals, and it continued till 1981. The last one was beheaded in 1981. These people that were beheaded were not foreigners. They were French, okay? Now, the prisons were not built for foreigners. They were built for French and the people that are living in France, for example, or in the UK for that matter. Now, the problem is that it's a deep-seated problem, and it has nothing to do with the skin color. It is the fact that people, for example, people have been studying, I don't know about the UK very much, but France, I know what's going on. Now, people come and they come thinking that the place is an El Dorado, like one of my brothers was saying when he was telling us, don't come to France. You're not going to find what you want. And I was saying, I'm not coming to look for something. I'm coming just on sabbatical for a year. So don't fear me now. I'm your sister. Okay. So many of these people don't know Europe. They have been hearing a lot of lies, in fact, because people that come, for example, somebody in Atensuka, the wife was, like they said, overs. She went overs and she was sending money home. Nobody knew what she was doing. People thought she was in the, third sky, third heavens. The reality was that she was a nanny, keeping kids for rich people. So she was not in a glamorous work, but people thought she had a right. Do you understand? So many of people come because they are told everything is rosy there. You have water, just on the tap, water is there, you have this, you have that. They don't tell them the whole truth. So people come and then they get frustrated because they cannot integrate. I know I won't tell you, it cannot be told in a nutshell what happened to us as a family. It took 10 years for me to get a full-time job. Not that I was not qualified. Okay? So it took 10 years and I was never promoted. I was kept at the bottom of the pile. So it's not because I was Black. Now, the thing is, people are, first of all, they come with ideas that are not realistic. Then they come here and see for themselves a lot of problems. And they find out that they are treated as foreigners, but they are foreigners, yeah? You cannot just come to a place and ask to be treated exactly like the people of the place, because the people of the place have no other place to go. They are at home. That's their place. You come from somewhere else. Nobody invited you. You come and then, well, you have to make some efforts. And the effort sometimes can be very costly. And then if you are not, then you get frustrated. And then what you observe generally among migrants is that people are not the first generation because they were ready to suffer anything, to get rooted, get a job, get money, But the second and third generation get highly frustrated because they were born in the same place, say, born in the UK. And then every other day, they are talked to or at the receiving end of comments that seemingly tell them that they are not from there, but they are, they were born here. So they cannot understand. And then they get frustrated and then they accuse people of racism and so on. And, the skin color doesn't tell the whole story. For example, in France, there are people that are what they call dom-tom. Guadeloupe, Martinique, Réunion, several overseas territories that are part and parcel of France, even Corsica, and they don't look the same. They may have another language, but they are part and parcel of France. So people see them on the street. It's not written on their face that they are French. They look different, and people, for simplification purposes, start talking to them as if they are not. But I want to say that prisons were not built for foreigners, and foreigners are still not majority.
That is important to be clarified, because what I just explained is that everywhere people are the same.
Yeah.
It is not true that the Moroccan people are criminal.
No.
There are some people in Morocco that are criminal. It is not true that the Nigerians are criminal. There are some people among the Nigerians that are criminal.
Yeah.
But the journalists, those who make the news, particularly the mainstream media, able to discern this very well, so that the poor people, because the poor, the average people, do not make the effort to understand the information very well. They just take it like this, they just swallow it, and they go around and start misbehaving on the street. That is why it is very important that the analysis needs to be done. The journalists need to report it accurately. Otherwise, they are making a misinformation around. And this happens very often here in the West. Now, treatment, you were saying before that, okay, you are a foreigner, you just come to the land, you don't expect to be treated like the people that have been there. What do you mean by this treatment? What are you actually referring to as a treatment? Let me give a kind of example here. Are you saying that as a foreigner, something that is due to you, like as a human being, you are working, your salary should be degraded because you are a foreigner? You are working, you are paying tax to the government. Thing that supposed to be given to you at a point because you cannot work anymore, or for any other reason, those benefits should not come to you because you are a foreigner. Let me explain what you mean by this treatment that you cannot get because you are a foreigner, and it might be right.
It's just like, take an illustration like that. You and your family live in a bungalow, and somebody comes and asks you to house them because they don't have a place. So you house them, and then after a while, they want to claim part of the house because they are here. And you will say, but I bought my house and I built it for me and my children, not for housing, you and other people. So if there is a space, I give you. If not, well, at least you have a choice to return where you come from. Do you understand it? Mm-hmm. From the point of view of a family. Mm-hmm. You cannot house the whole. For example, in France now, there's a problem at the moment with the law. People go on holiday, lock their door, and come back to find out that the squatter has taken over their house, changed the locks, and claimed the house. And they find it very difficult to get the police to remove these people because they are protected for whatever reason. So it has happened to many people. Now, the problem is, if a place is your place of birth and you have been living there, and this applies not only for, say, the British or the Franco-French, but anybody that was born in a place and that can claim that place as their own, has the right to get job, to get everything. The problem is, if you come from somewhere else, for example, I came from Nigeria. The British didn't invite me, yeah? I came for a particular reason. And I was not keen on coming. I didn't choose to come. But okay, I was there. Now, I couldn't expect people to give me priority because I'm not from the place. That's something I totally recognize for myself. So at first, I fought it. I tried to get promoted, but in the end, I concluded yes, okay. I wanted to get a similar treatment that's in terms of work, and I didn't suffer as such, but it was at work that this manifested. So because I knew I was coming from somewhere else, and one of the things that I was told by the government when I was trying to get benefits at first so that they can help me get a job, they told me, but you rendered yourself homeless. That is, you left voluntarily the place you were. And I said, no, I didn't. And I told them the reason, what happened at that time. Then eventually they accepted it. And then they gave me benefits for a short while, and then I got a job, part-time and so on. So what I'm saying is, if you come from somewhere else, you have to recognize that there should be, morally speaking, there should be a preference for the people that are from the place, the sons of the soil. And this exists in Nigeria. We have to recognize. In the north, there is no jump. You enter university without jump. In the south, you have to take through jump. And then when you are employed in the north as an Igbo person, if tomorrow they find a house up, they will remove you. In fact, without ceremony, you come to the office and they say, sorry, somebody has replaced you, and that's it, because you are not from the north. They do that and nobody raises a finger. It's part and parcel of life in Nigeria. So we cannot blame others, but when we do that to ourselves, you see, whatever the reasons in Nigeria are not the reasons in France or the UK, but definitely there are people that have only one place to stay. Some others have come from somewhere else, and unless they are genuine, asylum seekers, which many of them are not, then in theory, they have another place they could go back to. And so even if you are not, you are received in the country, like now, I'm a British, and nobody can quarrel with that. I show them my paper and have the same right to vote. I can vote for the next prime minister. But it took me some time. And of course, I speak English, and so on. So these things are not just like, I say, not black and white. There are very, very many nuances, very complicated factors that enter into that. And for example, I was talking about, people that are stopped and searched on the street. For example, one of our daughters was riding in a Mercedes with her husband. Both of them are young. It's my last daughter. And the police stopped them in London and started quarreling with them. Who are they? How did they come to get that car and so on? And our daughter started filming them with her telephone. And the police said, don't you do that? And she said, yes, because I've not committed any offense. Just because we drive a car and we are blacks, does it mean, and eventually they were let go. Now, they thought that these people had stolen a car because they look very young, slim, the guy was looking, he's a Yoruba, he was looking slim and 20-something, and they were saying, how come that he get a Mercedes?
but this is really typical. This is what we were saying before, though.
But now wait.
It look like those people who can be criminal, no? They fit the profile very well. Who are usually criminal? Is that what you're saying?
Now, just that is what you see. If I stop at that and I don't explain the background, you will then have all the right to protest. But what's going on is that in London and all over the UK anyway, there are gangs that are dealing with drugs, and they are very, very successful. They have a lot of money. So the police that is only dealing with criminals, is that as a policeman, you don't go to parties with nice people. So they are used to criminals, and they know that many of them, these criminals, are coming from somewhere else, or they look different. For example, there were gangs in the recent years that were taking young girls, young British white girls, and subjecting them to all kinds of rape and all the rest. And this was not even raised by the police or the media. They were all told to shut up for fear of being accused of racism. So that went on. Probably near 2,000 girls were affected until eventually it was uncovered. And you see that the police knows what happens. Why is it that these things were happening? One reason is religion. sorry to say, Quran, encourages people, because the Muslim women are covered from head to toes. So if people see a girl that is with mini skirt and a bit, not too covered, they assume automatically that she's a prostitute. In fact, she's inviting rape. That's their own perception. You understand what I'm saying? She's perceived by these gangs as a prostitute. And in fact, they said so when they were asked by police. See, she's a prostitute, look at her. But she was not, in her own point of view. So so that's one reason. Second reason is that many of these people that come from somewhere else want to get rich quick. Now, exactly like Nigeria is plagued by gangs that kidnap people every day. One of my family in Nigeria was kidnapped. He only escaped with his life by sheer miracle. They were about to shot him down, but thankfully, he is still alive. So why are they doing that? It's just getting rich quick. And exactly the same here. So you find that there is a heavy proportion of people from somewhere else, born here or not, but with a different culture, that end up committing offense.
It is a difficult job, no? Tracing who really are the criminal, no? If a police officer here in Europe, they are really sophisticated. They have all the instruments. They have the way to be able to monitor. They're able to tap into phone. I think the police have the possibility of identifying who the criminals is, because it is their job. If a policeman, whether in US or in UK, go and arrest a man or a woman, an Africa, wherever you are coming from, and is really a criminal, I don't think a lot of people are going to be protesting on the street for that. Because you are a criminal, you need to be treated as a criminal. But if you just go and start harassing people on the street because they look like criminal, that is not going to be accepted. I think that is what we are trying to outline here. Not that because young people go and rape a woman and they say she dressed like a prostitute, nobody's going to justify that. That is a crime and they need to pay for it. But you don't need to start harassing people who look like them and say, they look like criminal because they look like people we arrested yesterday. I don't think that is accepted anywhere.
But you know that many of the people that are criminals are not arrested. They are in France. There is a notorious family. I don't know which country in West Africa they come from, but it's Francophone anyway. They have been protesting that they are innocent and that the family, one of them was shot in an unfortunate incident. Okay, now they have been maligning police. They have been going on, and people, it has been proved beyond doubt that most of these family members are indeed criminals, but they escape. They usually escape. And the same happens here in the UK. The reason being that people are very reluctant to accuse them. They can be stopped, they can be taken to police station, but after that they will be released. Because people say, they don't want to look like racist. People will accuse them of, hating the blacks, hating this, hating that. And so they would have a better treatment,
That is the complexity of the human nature, no? Of course, I know that some of the example, the instances, the preamble we use here are just very generic. But when we talk to individuals who have gone through some of these experiences, like in your own case, that is very particular, no? And there are many people there who have these particular cases who have told you his or her life experience. You cannot argue that, no? Like a guy I was interviewing in UK, he was born there in London for over 50 years ago, telling me how he was discriminated against in the school. Those are not just statistics. That is a real life event. And there are many like that. And like you are saying, there are also these people who think they are smart. They just come from somewhere and they want to take advantage of the local system because it's appear to be free. Yeah, there are also those ones, no? That is where I think it's a little bit more complex. That is why I believe what you're saying, that it is not just black and white. So sometimes we need to be able to trade on the gray line. All right. Now, you were saying something before in the beginning of the episode that you didn't see yourself as white, neither are you black. So by being white, what does it mean?
I don't, there is that saying that is going on among Black Lives Matters and so many groups that, people call this white and black. I don't recognize color like that. And I know that many people now accuse people that say that, oh, if you say you are colorblind, then there's something wrong with you. It means because you are a supremacist and all these things I reject completely. All these theories. And you notice that there's something else I jotted down before we met this morning, that this issue of black and white reminds me very much of Karl Marx that I studied when I was in school, in high school in France. You see, where you had the poor and the rich. And so the poor were maltreated, the rich were the bad ones. And then you replace the poor will become rich and the rich will become poor and everything will be okay. You look at USSR, now Russia and China, and clearly this thing doesn't work. Now, so it is important. But for my purpose, I think that people, I don't know actually what people mean by black and white. Because like I say, I don't recognize it. Your DNA doesn't say that you're black or white.
Thank you.
Your look doesn't say that you're black or white. And like my family, all my children are a mix and they cannot say they are black or white. And possibly, like if they were in South Africa, apartheid area, they would say, anytime you have even in the UK now, actually, if you look like not so clear, what you call it, your skin color, then you deem to be black. And so all our children are called black, but they're not. You understand? And it's not only a matter of color, it's also their behavior, because we are a mix. And I know that I'm not a typical French for a start, because my parents were not typical French. But now even worse, because I speak French with a Nigerian accent, because I stayed.
that is beautiful.
So one time somebody in France told me, "Are you French?" I said, "Are you joking?" And he said, I'm the way you are speaking, I was thinking it was ridiculous. Now, the problem is, how do you call somebody white or black? What is it? And it's not, where does it stop? Like I'm saying, like with a mixed race, you are, even my children, there's not one that is the same color as the other. Just imagine that. It's not, we are not in painting here, it's the reality. See, my first boy was, his hair here was Nigerian. His hair at the back was completely like French. See, that was his reality. And they are just different. Even their body build is different. My last child is having a big bottom, like many people in in Nigeria. Not like, so these things are not. They're just like, they are not real. It's like something you would stick on your face and call it this or call it that. And it's a simplification of people. It's a denying of identity, because who are you? That's the question, And those people that are saying they are Afro, I don't want really to discuss America because I don't know that country. I find it very bizarre and I cannot understand. So I don't want to talk about it. But to me, is like when I was in Nigeria, I would call myself Nigerian, sure. And people could have said, I know you're not because your nose is like that. They never said that. And why should people say that? Looking at your features or your color and trying to put you in a box. They are not, like when we came first into the UK, to England, there was a form. You fill a form for most things. And they call it, I forgot what, and ethnic
origin.
Something, yeah. And then at first, there was only black and white. Then people were saying, so they were adding a tick and saying neither or something. Then they became more refined. So are you a black African, black British, black West Indies, white British, white other? So and somebody
but it's really quite pathetic, no? In that it doesn't. Okay, now if you up until recently, the word Black Africa is something that I hardly ever use. The reason is that I cannot imagine myself being described with a color. A color doesn't explain whom I am, to start with. And secondly, I am not really black in the real sense of it.
Yeah.
I know what is black. I can pick up the color. If you take a picture of me against a black background, I will still show, which means I'm not black.
See white.
So, so I don't know why, but is it possible that it is there because some people are benefiting from this oversimplification of identity? That is why we are using it.
I think that people that use that, continue with the examples. So in South Africa, there are many people that are South Africans, genuine, and they are white, so-called. So how would you say, oh, you're not African because, so that's a problem. Like, for example, one time I was told during Christmas time, there are students, foreign students that are feeling lonely, they are away from home. Would you house one for, Christmas Day? I said, sure. And they told me, okay, we are going to send a student from, forgot where it was, one of the southern African countries. And then when she came, I thought she was a so-called black, and she was pure white. And we started chatting, and it was very interesting. She was really, from that country. And she said that her ancestors were German. So you see that these things are not accurate. It's not accurate. It's just like you see people do that. Like you go to an interview with a suit, three-piece suit. Another person comes with a jogging suit. You know that the one in three-piece suit will be taken because they assume that that one is more refined, more qualified. It's just a suit. Yeah. And people cannot understand. One time they invited me to talk to someone. It was a group of Nigerian Igbos, Catholics in London. So I came and people were gobsmacked. They were opening their mouth. Are you sure she's a professor? Because I don't know how to dress. Yeah. So, there is a proverb in France that said that the dress doesn't make the monk. What you look like is not the real thing. And the people that are using that, being color or any other simplification, to my mind, are dishonest, but they may not know. It is usually unconscious, but they are not honest. If they were really honest, they would have thought about the whole thing. So basically, for me, as a viewpoint in my life, every bad stuff starts with ignorance, be it from the police, be it from the Black Lives, be it from anywhere. Ignorance is a killer. So you should come to someone and try to find out who is that stranger Who is that person? Why did she or he come to your town, to your neighborhood? Like, for example, for many years, my husband was thought to be a West Indian here in our street because people had never seen a Nigerian around. So they assumed that he was a West Indian until one day he told them, oh, actually, I'm coming from Nigeria. They said, oh, wow. So you see, we should, my attitude is stop putting people into boxes. Don't call them, disabled, this, that, color, whatever, the way you dress, everything. At Nsukka, the first time I went to see my students as a new lecturer, I was in my office and somebody in the corridor, some other students were talking, and somebody said, who is that person that is in the office there? And the other one said, oh, it's a lecturer. I said, a lecturer? Because I was dressing for them, I didn't know, but I was dressing like a servant. I had very simple shoes. I was having a small dress, very, very ordinary, the way that servants were dressing with. That was my choice. I discovered later that my fellow lecturers were gorgeously dressed with, fabric that were costly and so on and so forth. And even the pattern of their
dresses.
Their dresses told people this is a lecturer. And I didn't know, So I didn't care afterward. I said, well, they will discover me by the real thing is what is inside.
What they're going to deliver. So tell me, what was your experience there teaching in Nsukka?
I was highly respected by students. And I never got that kind of respect in the UK when I have been teaching in 2 universities in the UK. And I never got that kind of respect. I was very respected. And the reason was not because at that time, actually, I was called Parent before I married. So they knew me as Miss Parent. But I was respected because of the material I brought to my class, because of the knowledge I had of French culture and civilization and literature that I was teaching at all levels, including postgrad after when I was teaching translation. And my colleagues respected me for the same reasons. My qualifications, my abilities, my competencies.
Yeah, very interesting.
But you can see that what was happening in the UK, like I gave you the example of my Chinese colleague, she was using her Chinese name to sound authentic as a Chinese lecturer, a lecturer of Chinese. So the UK had a choice. They could get people from the real thing to teach. And the fact that she was called Pearson because she married a British was not interesting for them. And probably she never tried it. She continued using, you. That's the Chinese name. So it was a pattern that they used not only for blacks or whatever. It has nothing to do with color. It was any foreigner. You have the choice. You can employ somebody that is from that very country to teach about that very country. And they thought, not that they didn't know, they interviewed me, okay, but they thought that on what they were saying, on their prospectus for potential students, people will see, Ugochukwu teaching French, they say, oh, is that they could not get a French person? That was the idea, based on ignorance again, you see.
I get it. Thank you for that. All right. Now, what do you think we could do or people could do as a society to make sure that we downgrade this artificial barrier that we have created, black and white, referring to ourselves instead of just simply say where you are coming from in Nigeria by definition today, or in a more global sense, Africa, European. What do you think we could do to sort of talk to ourselves naturally the way we are instead of these artificial barriers?
I think that there is need for corporate work on both sides. first of all, if you come, that's my own experience as coming as a foreigner here. You know, I was not British at all. And the French and the British are very different. Now, you come as a foreigner, what do? Will you start looking for other foreigners from the same area, be it Nigerian or French, or in fact, I could have, you know, but neither me nor my husband ever did that anywhere. When my husband came to France for a year, his year abroad, as a student of French, he met Nigerians and left them within a fortnight, and then started mixing with French people. And he was well loved, well respected, but he was a bit of a loner because he was not going to stay there forever. But the first thing is, if you come to a new country, you can use your backup group as a support, especially when you don't know anything about the country, you're a newcomer. But then, if you have made a choice of moving to a new country, wherever it is, you have to integrate, not just be patching there and continuing with your life as if you were still in Lagos. It's necessary that we mix, that we try to understand the people. You don't just, I give you a quick example. I was just new at Nsukka, and I made friends with a very old lady. Well, not very old. She was in her 70s, my age now. And she was, at that time, I thought she was very old. She was a specialist of the same domain, oral literature, with me. So I made friends with her. Unfortunately, shortly after, she got operated, and then one day she was coming back from UNTH Enugu. She had a fatal accident and died. And I went to, I was really sad, and I went to the lying-in state. I didn't know anything about the customs in Nigeria. I entered that room, and people were laughing, cracking jokes, drinking and eating women. And I was crying and saying, what is it I'm doing here? Why are these people not sad? It passed me. I could not understand. It took me 10 years because nobody explained to me, but I was trying to understand. But gradually I started, because I joined the church and joined the women's group. I started going to the occasions like that and noticed what people were doing and started understanding and processing the difference and trying to, that is why they are doing that. They didn't say we are doing this because of that, because they could not see any difference. They could not understand what was strange, because for them it was life. For me, it was strange. And then I started understanding. And when I lost our son and the women came, I knew what to expect. You see it? So the thing is, you have to make effort to mix with the people, trying to understand. They may not be able to explain themselves because they don't know that there is any problem for you. They don't know your culture. They know them as their own as normal. So you have to try and mix, enter, join groups, whatever it is, like camping or, rambling or singing or whatever group. Mix with the people and stop, gluing with your own people from back there. And then the people the other side, at first, it will be difficult for them to do anything because they don't know better, but they are on their soil. So they are comfortable. They are rooted. They have none of the problems you have as a newcomer. But if you mix with them, they will start discovering that there is something else than their own language, that their own, usually when you do that, they start getting interested and say, like they cannot pronounce my name. So they say, Frank, oh gosh, okay, Francoise Ugochukwu. And Ugochukwu means the glory of God. And they say, oh, wow, interesting. You see, you have changed their point of view. But the one that is coming in must do the effort, because otherwise stereotypes will stay. And then don't grab the stereotypes and claim them for yourselves, like people do. See, for example, this Black Lives Matter, you see that some people reacted in saying, but all lives matter, or unborn lives matter too. Because they resent it, they say, oh, is that only their life that matters? So people don't understand, you see? So you have to make the extra effort, and it will be well with you. I've never got problem now in the UK, It has taken time, okay, but eventually I got a full-time job. Eventually I retire, and people, I discuss with all kinds of people, and people don't resent me as different now.
That's lovely. That's important. That is the way it's supposed to be. Because none of us really stay and remain where we are born. We go out. We are citizens of the world. We should really be free to move out everywhere we go. And we really should also make an effort to make our journey a better one for ourselves and also to the people that we are meeting. I think that is very important. All right. Is there anything you would like to add to conclude the conversation?
Let me start thinking whether there is anything. Yeah, you see, when we were talking about what is important is your identity. If you want to be comfortable somewhere, then you have to decide, what is my identity? For example, I was French. I thought I was French. Then I came to Nigeria and I assumed that I was Nigerian. Then one time we came to France for a year, and my own family was finding it difficult to understand me now. I was terribly foreign to them, and I didn't understand what was wrong. And so I had to ask myself, actually, who am I? You see? And when you decide what is your real identity, then you'll be more comfortable. Another point, the last point I would say is avoid logic. For example, if you say, okay, X is a foreigner. Now, my assessment of foreigners, my experience of them is bad. Therefore, that X must be bad. That doesn't work. But people do that every day. For example, when I was in primary school, somebody in that town in France, a small town, raped a girl. And he was from somewhere else. And the neighbor to my grandma said, oh, these foreigners. Because she had only seen one. And unfortunately, that's it. He was a bad person. So we should avoid, you see, again, putting people in boxes, simplifying matters, and be ready to appreciate the great, rich variety of the world.
Dr. Ugochukwu Francoise, thank you so much for the conversation. I really appreciate it.
Okay, see you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewafo. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.